Hank Palmer is among the most skilled defense attorneys in Chicago. He's in the restroom at the courthouse when the prosecuting attorney Mike Caton questions his ethics and the fact that he represents so many guilty individuals. Hank tells him that innocent people can't afford him. Caton asks how he sleeps at night. Hank responds, saying he rests in a splendid house with a stunning wife. In the courtroom, Hank receives a phone call from his brother informing him of their mother's passing. Hank requests that the trial be postponed until he can return. Caton doubts him, so Hank plays the voicemail. The case is put on hold. Outside Hank's residence, Hank bonds with his daughter Lauren. He goes inside and tells his wife that he wants custody of Lauren once they're divorced. The picture-perfect life he portrayed for Caton isn't entirely truthful. His wife tells him that he'd be an awful father because he isn't aware of Lauren's school schedule, her teachers, or her favorite color. Hank leaves and heads to Carlinville, Indiana for his mother's funeral. Hank pays his respects to his mom at the funeral home viewing. We meet his younger brother Dale, who appears to be on the autism spectrum and hides behind a Super 8 camera filming everything. We also meet older brother Glenn. He was once the local star baseball player, but his career was derailed by a car accident. Now he's an out-of-shape guy who owns a shop. Hank visits the local courthouse and observes his dad. Judge Joseph Palmer deliberated over a case where a man claims he can't afford child support despite purchasing a new truck. Judge Palmer dispenses justice and orders the man to surrender his truck keys to the pregnant woman suing him so she can sell it. The judge also humorously reminds her of her role in conception. At the end of the case, Judge Palmer struggles to recall Bailiff Gus's name, indicating memory lapses. At the Palmer residence, Hank discovers that his dad stores all his belongings in his old room, and no arrangements were made for him to stay. The next morning, all the Palmers leave early to have breakfast at the local diner before heading to the funeral. Hank arrives late and sarcastically thanks them for the invitation. The judge leaves without acknowledging Hank. Hank encounters his old high school girlfriend Samantha, who works at the diner. They haven't seen each other in years. At the mom's funeral, the judge is warm and friendly to everyone except Hank. They don't get along at all. They proceed to the cemetery for the burial. That night, the Palmer boys decide to go to a local bar while the judge goes to the convenience store. At the bar, locals start to harass Glenn because they've all had poor experiences in the judge's courtroom. Glenn is about to fight them when Hank steps in and through fast talking shames the locals into leaving. This impresses young bartender Carla, who later makes out with Hank. When the Palmer boys get home, they see that their dad damaged the front of his car. The next morning, the judge yells at them for taking his car out. He doesn't remember causing the damage himself. The police show up and question the judge about his whereabouts the previous night. Someone hit and ran Mark Blackwell, and now he's dead. The judge goes with the police for questioning, but Hank rushes in and stops things. The judge insists that because he didn't do anything wrong, there was no harm in talking to the police. Both the judge and Blackwell were seen at the convenience store last night. The judge says he went a different way home than where Blackwell's body was found. The Palmers all go home, and the judge mocks Hank for not being able to hold his marriage together. This infuriates Hank, so he leaves and gets on a plane to go back to Chicago. Before the plane departs, Glenn calls him to inform him that the judge has been arrested. Forensics shows Blackwell's blood on the judge's car. Hank goes to the jail and bails out his dad. The judge refuses to let Hank represent him and instead hires a local inexperienced attorney, Captain Kennedy. Lawyering seems to be a side gig to Kennedy's main occupation of running a shop. They discover that Dwight Dickham is going to handle the prosecution. Dickham has a reputation, so Hank stays to assist Kennedy in selecting a jury. He does so by inquiring about the bumper stickers on each candidate's car. If it's something related to having an honor roll student or similar, he rejects them. Hank dons his old Metallica shirt and hops on his bike, riding around town. He attempts a no-handed stunt and ends up wiping out. Samantha and her daughter Carla, the bartender, come to his aid and give him a ride. Carla and Hank keep their previous night's encounter a secret from Samantha but their accounts clash regarding whether or not they've met before. She's honest, he's not. Hank and Samantha spend some time together and reminisce. They break into the diner like they did as kids, and then she reveals that she doesn't just work there. She owns it now. They didn't need to break in. She wanted to recreate the old times. Plus, seeing Hank climb the building was worth a broken window. They share pie, and she makes advances, but he declines and explains that he's returning to Chicago soon. She's insulted by his assumption that she wanted more than just a hookup and tells him to lock up when he leaves because she's going to go home and take care of herself. A security tape reveals that the judge lied about his route home. He claimed he went one way, then turned back due to a washed-out road. However, the security tape contradicts his timeline. Hank asks Dale about the judge's health. Dale says he's fine and maintains a routine of playing chess with Doc Morris every week. Hank knows his dad doesn't play chess, so he asks Dale if he has any footage of that. Dale does, and upon reviewing it, they discover that the judge is undergoing some form of medical treatment. Hank meets with Doc Morris and learns that his dad has cancer and has been undergoing chemotherapy, though it was diagnosed too late. Hank asks about the side effects and discovers that memory loss is one of them. Hank informs the judge that he knows about the chemo and wants to use it in court. Blackwell, whom the judge previously showed leniency, ended up killing his girlfriend after minimal time served. Then the judge imposed a harsh sentence. Blackwell had just been released from jail. Thus, the prosecution has evidence placing the judge at the accident scene and a motive for murder. The judge's pride prevents him from using his illness as a defense. Apart from the doctor and the late wife, no one knows about the cancer. He doesn't want his legacy to be tarnished, comparing himself to Ronald Reagan. Hank argues that as a small-town judge, he won't leave much of a legacy. Since Hank is spending some time in Indiana, he invites his daughter Lauren to visit. He advises her that his father can be stern, and she shouldn't take it personally. To Hank's surprise, the judge is charming to Lauren and tells her that she's the first girl they've had in the family in a very long time. That evening, Hank and Lauren hear a noise from the judge's room. Hank investigates and finds that his dad is disoriented, struggling to walk, and has soiled himself. Hank helps him into the bathroom, undresses him, and assists him in the shower to clean up. The judge expresses a desire to testify during his case, but Hank opposes it. The judge argues that only guilty individuals refuse to defend themselves. They discuss the best lawyers they've encountered. Hank shares about one he respected, and the judge talks about one known for integrity, something he believes his son lacks. Hank and the judge have a heated argument. Hank was driving under the influence the night Glenn had the car accident and got injured. His dad punished him severely. Despite being tough on Hank, the judge acknowledges that Hank turned out well because of it. Hank insists he succeeded on his own. The judge reminds him that he financed Hank's law school education and never received a congratulations from him. In fairness, Hank never thanked his dad either. This visit to Carlinville marks the first time they've spoken since Hank left home at 18. Hank, the judge, takes the stand. Dick Ham jogs the judge's memory, revealing that they were both at the convenience store the night Blackwell died. When Blackwell saw the judge, he threatened to urinate on both the judge's wife's and another woman's grave, establishing motive. Hank questions him. We learn that the judge was lenient on Blackwell initially because he saw him as no different from Hank, a young boy who made mistakes. Hank brings up the chemotherapy, surprising everyone. This angers the judge, who declares their relationship over. The judge admits to memory loss and struggles to remember Gus' name, despite Gus serving as his bailiff for over 20 years. Dick Ham cross-examines. The judge adamantly denies remembering killing Blackwell, but admits he's glad he's dead. The jury deliberates and returns a verdict of not guilty for murder but guilty for manslaughter. The judge is sentenced to 4 years in prison. Hank returns to Chicago and encounters Ketan in the bathroom. Ketan seems different, resolved to continue despite a losing streak with cases. 7 months later, the judge is released from prison, and Hank picks him up. They go fishing. The judge explains that he was tough on Hank because he saw similarities between him and Blackwell and wanted Hank to become a better man. He corrects his earlier statement about the best lawyer, now acknowledging that Hank is the best lawyer he ever saw. Hank finally gets his dad's approval. Then the judge dies in the fishing boat. After the judge's funeral, Hank goes into the courtroom where his dad sat for so many years. He spins his dad's chair, seemingly contemplating. If you liked the video, consider subscribing the channel. Thank you.